And that sort of teaching was not sort of criticizing or putting someone down, demeaning somebody, just actually saying that why you do that, wasting time, but why do people do that? And one of the reasons is because, again, you're very focused if you're fantasizing and looking at TV or watching a football match or tennis match, whatever you like. Why is it the mind doesn't wander? Because you're enjoying it. And when I started focusing on that, I realized that one of the reasons why the mind wanders off is because it's not enjoying where it already is. It's not seeing the delight in the moment. It's not seeing the benefit. Just staying put where you are and not wandering off. Why do you want to go somewhere else when you have a wonderful time right here where you are? And of course, whenever we are where we are, so often people can find fault with the present moment. They can say, oh, this is too cold, this is too hot, it's too noisy, it's even too peaceful. I thought I'd never hear this, but I went to one monastery many years ago in the north of Thailand. It's a beautiful monastery, it's perfect, idyllic. I was only left it because Ajahn Brahm sort of asked me to come back. The Queen of Thailand was visiting at the time, and I had to go back to be there for that. But anyway, it's a beautiful, perfect monastery, but there's no monks there. And I asked the villagers, why aren't there any monks here? And the villagers said, because all the monks have come so far, told me the monastery is too peaceful. And I thought I'd never hear that, a place being too peaceful. Anyway, for some people who don't have the ability to delight in peace, they will wander somewhere else, physically. And it's the same, if you're not peaceful where you are, you're not enjoying the delight of that peace where you are right now, of course the mind will wander off. So that's one of the reasons why, to overcome the hindrance, the problem of the mind thinking about this, thinking about that, I just, in the guided meditations, I get people to focus on their body, which is important to people, to focus on it, get to know it, be aware of it, relax it, and just to experience the delight in a peaceful body. Because that peaceful body, it is delightful. And it's not just something to make people happy in the meditation. One of its main aims is to create stillness and to stop the mind wandering. If you're happy where you are, you don't want to go anywhere else. So the body becomes delightful in its feeling of relaxation. And all the time that you are just watching the feelings and sensations in the body that are happening right now, in this moment, you're delighting in present moment awareness. And for many people who practice meditation, they can be mindful, but if you don't have the delight with your mindfulness, you'll find that the mind will wander off. You can look over it, you can guard it, you can be a supervisor of your own mind, but after a while the mind will go somewhere else. Because the mind sort of needs that satisfaction, that delight, that fulfillment. So if we can generate the perception of delight when, even at the beginning of the meditation, when we're just relaxing our body and checking our posture, then you find it's a pleasant abiding and you just stay with the body. So often when I meditate, relaxing the body, sitting down, making it comfortable, it is delightful. For me, I've cultivated that perception of delight in the body. I've learned how to see that. And it means that sometimes I don't want to go on to the next stage. I'm just so happy just being here. It's fulfilling, it's satisfying. You're sitting down, you don't want to move. You're still, you're peaceful. And realizing the importance of that delight, it works when you just go into the emotional world, the mind, and you are with this moment, because this moment is also delightful. Just watch your peaceometer. When the peaceometer gets pretty low reading, very, very peaceful. Peace is extraordinarily delightful. And you value the peace. I don't know why it is where many people are afraid of delight. They think that somehow you'll get attached to that and it'll stop your progress. Whereas for those who have studied the suttas, especially those teachings about meditation, you find that the Buddha kept on saying that delight is an important part of the meditation. The joy, the happiness of meditation. And whether it's when one goes to the breathing, and the breathing is just so peaceful, so joyful, so delightful. You have what the Buddha called the piti sukha, the joy and happiness which comes naturally with the breath. You're just enjoying this moment. And it's only recently that part of my job, because I have to keep up with what's happening in this world, even I do remember Ajahn Ajahn Chah's one of his chief disciples. He was a really good meditator, very peaceful. And then when Ajahn Chah saw how peaceful he was, he ordered a copy of the Thai newspaper and ordered him to read it every morning, so that he can understand how other people think. Have the language, so he could teach. But anyway, every now and again you get an interesting article. And one of those articles was about these hermits. One of those hermits was a lady, she was a Christian, who was living by herself for years in Scotland. And every now and again, that she would just bliss out by herself when she called it she experienced enhanced perception. Whatever she tasted. I think I remember she said even her porridge was just so delicious. And the scenery was just so amazingly beautiful. And of course I've talked about that several times, about, I call it powerful mindfulness, when the joy with the mindfulness shows that what you're seeing, what you're tasting, what you're feeling becomes enhanced. And it's beautiful, it's delightful, it's joyful. It's part of the path of meditation, to have that joy. So when the joy comes up in your meditation, please don't discard it and think it's some sort of danger. It's a good sign. It's a sign that you'll very likely not wander away anywhere, because you're enjoying where you are and having a good time just watching the breath. Sometimes when I've taught meditation to so many different people, and sometimes to young people who've never meditated before, the idea that watching the breath for a couple of hours could be delightful just is unbelievable to them. But it's true. So happy, so joyful. And then when you are joyful in your meditation, it's so easy to be peaceful. You don't need to go anywhere. So you don't go anywhere. You stay, and it's the stillness which becomes the cause of enhanced perception. Your awareness is getting stronger. The hindrances are getting weak. And the mind just doesn't wander anywhere. It stays put. Not because you hold it there, because you enjoy being here, because you don't want to move. And that becomes the way where the hindrance of restlessness just disappears. You're happy being where you are. Okay, so now is the opportunity to do the meditation. And so those of you overseas or wherever you happen to be, even in Perth here who are watching this, Now please close your eyes in your meditation posture, on a chair, on a stool, or wherever you happen to be. If you're ill in bed, lying in a bed is fine. And close your eyes, have the eyes closed. And I first of all just do a rough awareness of my body. Just roughly making sure I'm in a reasonably good posture. And then I go more refined. Start by checking my legs. And to be able to check my legs, to raise awareness of my legs, I just ask that question. So I would ask any one of you, how are you feeling today? Ask my legs, how are you right now? Are you comfortable? Do you need to be adjusted? The legs say yes, they do need to be adjusted, so I'll do that. I don't just adjust them once. I really care. Ask my legs again, are you okay now? When I put my awareness on my legs, I can pick up feelings, sensations, which I didn't notice when I was busy. I'm making sure that my legs are comfortable. And when they are comfy, I move up to my butt. I zoom in with my mindfulness, checking the position of my butt. Not just checking, but doing something about it if I can possibly improve those feelings and sensations happening now. I do notice that what I'm aware of is always in this present moment when I'm feeling my body. Physical sensations happen now. It's the thoughts, fantasies, dreams and plans which take you away from the reality of now. And then I move up my back, stretching it, easing it. Asking, is there anything I can do to make it more comfortable? Just like you would care for a child, you're settling them down in bed at night, making sure they're warm, feel safe, and then they can fall asleep and disappear. I care for my back. I want to make sure everything is comfortable and at ease. And I move to my shoulders. These are just how I divide up my body. You can divide it up differently if you wish. For this I manage to cover every part of my body. As I move from my back to my shoulders, noticing any tension and learning to use kindness to relax any tensions in my shoulders. To bring them to a state of peace. And then I move down my arms, past my elbows, my wrists, to my hands. Making sure the hands are comfortable. And even sometimes I think everything is fine. I do pause a little bit longer. Because some physical feelings are subtle. And I need to be there a little bit longer to pick them up. Because they could be the ones which are the most disturbing. And I go back up to my shoulders and neck. Just focusing on that one area. And the throat. Finally sweeping that attention up to my face. Experiencing any tightness around my eyes and my mouth and forehead. And learning how to relax all of those muscles. So nothing is being pulled tight. Nothing is squashed or scrunched up. Everything is loose and free. And then I look at my whole body, sitting here. Relaxed. I never leave that body until you feel the delight of relaxation. How free it is just to be sitting here. The body doesn't need to go anywhere or do anything. It's at ease. It's like it's retired from the busyness of doing stuff. It may not be 100% relaxed, but it's more relaxed than usual, which is the cause of delight, appreciative of the peace. And once the delight is perceived, my body relaxes further. And any wandering mind doesn't exist. Because I'm happy to be here with the feelings of a relaxed body. But it is important to go deeper inside. So I check my peaceometer. How peaceful am I right now? And I know, having watched that peaceometer, how to bring that level of peace to even a lower level, so much more peaceful. Simple being here right now. There's no inclination to think of the future or plan what I'm going to say next. There's no meaning right now in bringing up anything to do with the past. I want to be in this moment, to be free with very, very few things. It's called a silent, present moment awareness. I stay there because soon, being in this moment, not going anywhere, not dreaming, not thinking, my perceptions do become enhanced. The mind energizes. The lights in the mind become stronger. And soon it's quite natural. You'll become aware of your breathing. Doesn't matter what type of breath or where the breath goes in or goes out. So the breath does the breathing all your life. It does it well. Let the body do the breathing. You do the awareness of it. And the kindness, the friendliness to your own breathing. Until you feel the delight, just being in this moment with part of a breath. And just stay there. It will soon get even more delightful as the meditation starts to take off. I will now be quiet and let you continue the meditation. Again, when I start speaking, it will be close to the end of the meditation. close to the end of the meditation. How peaceful are you inside? How delightful. And what caused the lack of restlessness? Now as you start to emerge from inside, once again become aware of your physical feelings in your body. Usually I experience my body as very deeply relaxed when I emerge from meditation. It makes me feel healthy, at ease, energized. I shall now ring the gong 3 times. Please listen to every sound of the gong. When the 3rd ringing vanishes, that's this signal to come out from your meditation. The 3rd ringing of the gong. Good. Ooh. So now we'll have the questions. How many have we got here today? 8 questions, good. We got the first questions from Melbourne, then from Italy, from USA, India, Czech Republic, Indonesia, and from somewhere unknown. First of all, from Melbourne, why the first thing I wake up to are my thoughts? Not necessarily negative or positive, just observation. With meditation practice, will the thoughts subside, both in idle time and meditation time? Not quite sure what you mean by to wake up as the first thing in the morning, or when your sort of mindfulness starts to get stronger. But anyway, the thoughts, we become so used to thinking, we've been conditioned to think. And the example I often give is remembering the time when you were at school, probably primary school, and your teacher asked you, what do you think of that? And I said, nothing. And you were branded being stupid. So sometimes the thoughts are supposed to be praised in our Western world. But many thoughts are not seeing things clearly. And the thoughts do subside as you trust more in direct observation. By that I mean, I can't go past that story of Lao Tzu going with a disciple every day, every evening for a walk, had to keep silent throughout the whole walk, coming to a ridge in the mountains in the evening, and there's a beautiful sunset happening. And when the sunset was occurring, the student forgot the rule and spoke, what a beautiful sunset. He broke the rule. And Lao Tzu turned around and went home. Never allowed that young man to go on a walk with him anymore. When the other students try to ask him, that's a bit strict, give him a break. Anyway, what's wrong with saying what a beautiful sunset when you see one? And that's, what explained this to me when I first read this, was that when my student said what a beautiful sunset, he wasn't watching the sunset anymore. He was only watching the words. I thought, what a beautiful description. Because when you're thinking, you're giving an opinion. You're only seeing part of, you're actually only describing one type of perception of what you're experiencing. It's not the real experience. The thoughts, what you're thinking about, are two different realities. So after a while you get a little bit not so involved and dependent upon thinking, more on experience. And after a while they do. The thoughts subside and you see much more in life when you're not thinking about things. Sometimes you think about a person and you judge them and that's what you see. If you don't think about them, you see things you never expected in a person. And a question from Italy. Is the mental experience in the Brahma planes? Oh, that's my area. I'm Ajahn Brahm. Sorry, that's only just being a bit Ajahn Brahmish. Is the mental experience in the Brahma planes where you can be reborn the same as that in first jhana? And why does existence in the Brahma planes last an eon when the first jhana duration is typical in the order of a few hours? Okay, now this is a more cosmological question about Buddhism, that after a person passes away, they get reborn somewhere. Unless they're fully enlightened, when they don't get reborn at all, they disappear, they're vanished, they're gone. But one of the places where a person can get reborn is in, we call the jhana realms. And in those jhana realms, it's, especially if you've done a lot of deep meditation, and that's almost the thing one gets into at death. One hasn't got a body anymore, the physical body, which means that the jhanas they do last such a long time. There's nothing to disturb them. The less of a body you have, the easier it is to get into those jhanas to stay there for a long, long time. And of course, if this is the case, after a person passes away, those jhanas are eonic in length. But it's one of those questions there. You're not dead yet, because they wrote this question from Italy. So in that first jhana, the experience if you get reborn in those jhana realms is exactly the same, except it just doesn't fade away for a long, 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 long time. I must also say that in those deep meditations, the experience of time is totally different, which is sometimes why when you get into a deep meditation, you don't know just how long that you've been in that meditation, being perfectly aware, not sleepy at all. But you look at the clock and 2 hours, that's impossible. But it's been a 2-hour sit or a 3-hour sit. And simply because the perception of time has disappeared. To have a perception of time, you need some perception of the future or the past. If you're just in the present moment, then there's nothing to measure time. Time is a distance between the past and the present and the future, or the past and the future. And the past and the future are just not there. Then the experience of time is just gone. So hours, days, are totally just not meaningful. And from the USA, what is a good reason to travel? What are the benefits of traveling to experience the different cultures? My goodness, it's a strange question. But anyway, what's a good reason to travel? I don't know. There's many reasons not to travel. So, if you have got a good reason to travel, then fine. So that is where finances, the purposes, the trouble. It's much better not to travel even in your mind. Not to go into the future or the past and not to try and figure things out, to try and stop all the travelling, all the movement, and be still. Not going anywhere. And that's the place where one gets the most peace. So I may have misunderstood the question, because it's a bit of a weird one. What is a good reason to travel? To experience different cultures? I don't know how many cultures do you want to experience? And when you experience those cultures, you also disturb them as well. So sometimes, instead of getting more experience in life, get more stillness in life, more peace. From India, while meditating, many times my body goes through something that feels like shifting gears. And that's okay. 4 to 5 times with deeper relaxation every gear. Can you help me understand this, please? Or just the way we perceive the mind getting more and more still. Instead of like gears in a car, I always preferred the simile of that 1,000-petal lotus. Lotus petals open, another opens, and another opens as you go deeper and deeper into the same lotus. So, there are different changes, if you like. But to say it's from one gear to another, sometimes there are things like the 1.5 gear, 2.5 gear, 2 3/4 gear. So there can be a big shift. There can be slow shifts as well, as the petals of the lotus open slowly and gently. From the Czech Republic, why does the mind want more when we're already satisfied? Why does the mind forget the bliss we feel during meditation and still restless looking for happiness? It's because wanting is a certain amount of happiness in wanting. It's not very good happiness, but when we want, we're expressing our sense of control, ego, self. That's what the self does. It controls. And the self wants things. And after a while, what we're wanting is, we don't need. We do it just for the purpose of wanting, because we feel we are when we want something. It's one of the things you experience in meditation. As you go more and more deep, become more still. And the mind doesn't do anything. It's like something is missing, something is disappearing. And what it is you. You're vanishing. For many people that can be very scary. We're very attached to our idea of a self, which controls and can do things in this world. And to have that disappear is extremely challenging. It's the fear. First of all, control going, and then you going. Your deepest attachment. And from Indonesia, thank you, Ajahn, for fulfill my request for a blessing chant from time to time, from the very beginning. Oh yeah, Chula Mangala Sutta, only for monks, blessing to lay people, or we lay people can learn too. Of course you can learn those chants. But any of the chanting which we do, the words are one thing, and where they come from is another thing. In other words, if you get a good monk or nun or good practicing lay person, they really know the chant, they've really got deep meditation, they've got some sort of spiritual power, then when they chant these things, they do have a much, much more powerful meaning and a more powerful effect. It's as if, when I do those chants, because I know exactly what they mean, and sometimes I get inspired by them myself, and that inspiration, that energy, that power can come out in the chanting and can do things. So that's actually where it's lovely to be able to do the chanting if you really know what it means and you can give it power and you can make it work for people. Why not? Again, I mentioned I didn't really believe in that when I first became a monk, but there's just been too many sort of experiences and just watch them, see them, and just there's no other way you can explained the fact some of these things actually work. Just people do get better, good things happen. And there's many examples of that, but the one which always comes to mind, the one of the big sort of, you might call it miracle or something, that time on our 30th anniversary of the BSWA, when we did a big celebration at Supreme Court Gardens. And when it was raining, it was a storm. And that morning, I remember just before, I just looked at the weather forecast and it was hopeless. Everyone wanted to cancel, but I said, no, let's go for it. And I really did some very heavy chanting that morning, just put everything into it. It was Wesak, 30th anniversary. And many people were there. You remember that? Some of the Thai people here. Sompok was here. You were there. And the rain stopped. Just at the right time. And then afterwards, after we finished, it poured down. Supreme Court Gardens was flooded. The freeway was flooded. And so it was a really big storm, but we stopped it for our Wesak ceremony. And I remember the person, just one of the results of that, was the person who owned the company for hiring out the tents and the PA system and the tables and the chairs and all of that stuff. They wrote this email to the person organising it and said to them, who is this Ajahn Brahm fellow? I don't know who he is, but could you please ask him who's going to win the horse racing today? So I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, so sometimes that chanting can work. Okay, so they asked, they mentioned this, so why not let's do it again and do the chanting to finish off. Unless there's any other questions first of all? Okay, let's do the chanting. Sabbaroga vinimuto Sabba santapavajito Sabba veramati gando nibuto chatuang bhava Sabitiyo viva chantu sabbarogo vinasatu mate bhavan vantarayo sukhi digayu gopava apivadanhasiritsa nichang Utapachalino Chataro Dhamma Vatanti Ayuano Sukhang Balang. Very good. Okay. So that's it for this week. Next week we have the Ihasapanya coming here, so the nuns are coming next week. Very good. Done.